Please, the show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
There I am. A very warm welcome to the channel and a live stream. I haven't done a live stream for absolutely ages. And welcome to the two people watching. Hi there, how are you? Something a little bit different for today. And we're talking about some things that maybe possibly me going through your mind, whether to teach in, you want to be a teacher, maybe you have a TEFL degree or whatever. And you are thinking about going to Asia because it's sort of like a extended vacation or working holiday. Let me tell you my story with this. Now, I came to Asia way back in 1993, and I started to work in Asia in, I think it was 1994. The first place I worked was China, and I was invited to go and be a DJ in Wuhan. Now, the company arranged absolutely everything. The visa, even though it was wrong, the transportation, the accommodation, everything. All I had to do basically was to show up and get to China and there. And I started to work as a DJ. I was one of the very first DJs in China who were working in the really big nightclubs that held 5,000 to 10,000 people. There was a school that actually came up to me and said, "Can you teach English?" Now, even though I do have A-level and also university degrees related to English, I had no teaching experience and no teaching qualification. I told the school that and they said, "No problem." Now, please note it, this was 1994, a long, long time ago. And in China, it was a lot of fun. When I finished in China in 1995, my base at the time was really Bangkok. So I decided to, because I had the time, I took a teaching qualification lessons. And this was the teaching English in a foreign language. I did the 190-hour course, and it's still sort of valid today. And ever since then, when I worked in different countries, like in Vietnam and in South Korea and in Japan and Indonesia, because mainly I used to work at nighttime, I had the afternoon free. So I started teaching, and actually the money was really nice. Now, way back in, let's say, let's give a year, 1998, 1999, I was getting something like $25 an hour, $25 an hour to actually do this because I had my teaching certificate. But the question is here, whether to teach in Thailand or whether to teach in China. Now, there are a lot of scams, so really be careful if you're thinking about it. Maybe you have graduated from university, okay, and you've got a teaching certificate, or you've got a bachelor or a master's. You want to do something fun before you go to work back in your city or your country or wherever, and teaching is an option. Now, you do need the minimum of a bachelor's degree of anything near enough. And you can apply online and in Thailand and also in China. But there are some big scams, and you have to be really careful about it in both countries. The scam basically is you pay for your air ticket, you pay for your medical, you pay for your visa. The school will provide the necessary documents for your visa, and that's it. And they will say they will refund you at the end of the first year. You may say, okay, that's fine. But this is the sort of scam that can happen. And the scam is basically you go to China and then they say to you, "Oh, yep, we'll give you the money at the end of the year." You sign a contract, but the contract may say, and it may not even be in English, so make sure you do get a translation, that you will work for 6 months as a trainee and to see if you qualify for the full salary later. What is going to be your full salary? Well, 10,000 RMB, which is about 1,300, 1,400 to maybe up to 20 to 30,000 RMB, depending on your level of skill, etc., and where the school is. And then after 6 months, they will say, thank you very much, bye-bye. And as you don't have a leg to stand on because you signed this contract for a year, for 6 months, then they will turn it into a full contract, etc. This is really common. And if you go on YouTube, you will find some people who have been scammed with this, and nothing you can do because you've signed this legal contract in Chinese and you don't know what you're signing. So this happens also in Thailand, and be very, very careful with it. The solution to this situation is go to Asia. Go to Thailand on a tourist visa is fine. You can go and look for work. You can't work, but you can go and look for it, and go to the school, go on websites, etc., and even some of the online websites, and you can actually go to the school and then you can find out. The perfect situation, what you need as a teacher, would be a reasonable salary. Now, in Thailand, I would say something about 50 to 60,000 baht, which is 1,600. Hopefully, they can provide accommodation. And the accommodation's got to have air conditioning, it's got to have internet access. But some schools will say, we will help you find, and you would have to pay for that yourself. Now, if you're in Bangkok, your accommodation for a reasonably good apartment, let's say, is 15 to 20,000 baht. The conversion of this is basically $1 is about 35 baht, so you can work it out. $1 equals to $1 equals 7, about 7 RMB, which is the Chinese money. So everything should be provided for you. I've been to China many times as a DJ, on business, and even as an examiner for IELTS, for example. Everything was provided. But when I did think about working in China as a teacher, it wasn't like the old days, and they all said the same thing. So I sort of gave up on that idea. I don't need to work anymore. I'm retired. I'm happily retired. And YouTube really is just a hobby with one person watching. So this person here, for example, I don't know if you're still there. I have a TEFL level 5. I don't have a degree. Thailand or Cambodia, which one is the better for teaching? I would say is Thailand, because you're going to get more money. You can teach in Cambodia, but I think your salary would be about maybe $1,000 to maybe 1,300, 1,400. It's more than enough to live on. But when you're working, you also want to save some money as well. Otherwise, it's sort of pointless in one way or the other. So the best way, I would say, is that you can go to, you can get a tourist visa for China, you can get a tourist visa for Thailand, and then you can go on some websites when you're actually in the country, and then you can go to the actual school and see. And you have your own air ticket out, and make sure you get paid the full amount at the end of the first month. Don't do any sort of a trial period, is what I was trying to say before. Don't do a trial period. And this is sort of a scam that you can see online quite often with that. I personally would prefer Thailand because it's more fun. If you want the country life, you can get it, but your salary would be a lot less, and sometimes it may be a bit quiet. If you're a young person and you enjoy the nightlife in Thailand, you'd work 6-7 hours a day, 5 days a week. You would get the holiday time as well. You would have the right visa, and your contract may be extended year by year, and your visa, they are responsible for it. In Thailand, I don't think you need a medical, but I think in China you do. When I went to China the first time, I didn't have a medical, and with that I had to go to some weird place, food hygiene, and they took some blood, they did an eye test, they checked your heart, they checked your blood pressure, And then about 3 weeks later, I had my resident permit and I had my work permit as well. I know things have changed a lot in China since I've been there. When I did go to China on business, quite simple, I just got a business visa, and the company that I was working for actually provided the business visa for me. So again, I have to do absolutely nothing. So when you do travel abroad, and I've been traveling ever since, well, 1989, or working in different places in 1989, you make sure the visas are correct. You definitely don't want to overstay your visa. You don't want to have the wrong visa, because if they catch you, you're in a whole load of trouble, and it's a big headache. Yeah. I mentioned earlier that when I was in China for the very first time, I was on the wrong visa. I didn't know it was all in Chinese, but the person, Mr. Wu, his name was, who owned the company, was a very, very powerful and rich man. And he walked into the police station when my friend and I were having an interview related to immigration. He just said in his very bad English, he didn't speak English, he said, "James, go." And I left. And the story was that he did pay a fine of $10,000 for both of us. He could easily afford it. He was one of the very first people in Wuhan to drive a Mercedes. Most people in 1994 were riding a bicycle or some Chinese-made VW taxis, and that was about it. So if it really depends on what you want. Yeah? The Chinese people are absolutely lovely. The education system is better, a lot better than when I was there. It's more international. There are more foreign teachers. Some are professors, and they do have some really good work. But for me, in China, is the restriction. You want Google, you want Netflix, you want Facebook or Instagram, you need a VPN. And a VPN is actually illegal in China. But you would pay something like, I don't know, 20 RMB, which is, what is that? About $3? Yeah, about $3 per month for it. It's not going to be a fast connection, and you could never watch a Netflix movie on your laptop in 4K. It would have to be in probably 720 HD. I live on the internet, and if I just couldn't live like that. In Thailand, the internet is, well, I would say faster, it's more freer. The thing about Thailand, the internet is restricted in a way that you can't watch a little bit of, or how's your father, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I can't really say those words on the YT that I'm on, but you get my drift with that. So even now, if I decided to go back to work, it would automatically be Thailand. It wouldn't be here in Cambodia. Money is just too low. I would need to change my visa status, etc., etc., etc. Too complicated. But Thailand, yeah. But I wouldn't apply online. I would look online, yeah. But then I would see where and what the city is actually like, and then possibly go there, and then go to the actual school. Maybe you're avoiding the agent, whatever. Agents usually charge about 50% of what you get. So the school may say 3,000, but you only getting 1,500. Is that enough to live on? Thailand is as expensive as Shanghai, for example. Now, I live in Cambodia, and, well, if I go to a bar, I don't go very often, I can pay 50 cents for a beer. Yeah. If I want a packet of cigarettes, yeah, I do smoke. Sorry, I'm bad. Normal cigarettes, no funny stuff. Then I'm paying 80 cents per packet. So in that time, it's actually quite cheap. Accommodation here in Cambodia, $300 to $400. You get a really nice apartment, maybe with a backup generator and a swimming pool. It really depends on the location. In Thailand, it's going to be more expensive. I would say for a pretty nice one-bedroom apartment in a pretty good area with security, backup generator, swimming pool, it would start maybe about $300 to $400, but I would say 500 is ample. So it depends on your expenses. If you're a person who wants to go out every night and get drunk, beer is a lot cheaper, yeah, than in Western countries like England or America. But for me, going to Thailand and having a bottle of beer and paying $3 is actually quite expensive. It's not that I have the money, it's just a comparison. So at first it's going to be like a holiday, then I think you'll just get a bit tired of it and you'll settle down into the work. If you're there for a year contract, you are going to get the holidays like you would in the other countries, but you can go to different places and you can go and explore on your vacations. You would usually work 5 days. The thing about China is as well, when you teach in China, you sort of do your normal hours, but you're expected to join in all the school activities and you're expected to work as hard as the Chinese teachers who would get a lower salary than you. But it's sort of, can you teach at 8 o'clock in the evening for one class, which may be very inconvenient? And you're obliged to say yes, because the Chinese teachers would say yes to that. Because a lot of people in China, especially now with sort of the recession which is happening there, they would be, well, scared, because there's always someone behind your heels trying to take your job. Do I have anything else to say? Let's talk about something else for a moment or two. What's been happening on my channel quite recently is the Piano Gate or Pianoman Square, which has happened in King's Cross, St Pancras, with Mr. Brendan, this pianist. And there's been these Chinese people came up behind him and say, "You're not allowed to." This is the quote: "You're not allowed to play." These people were working for a TV company. There are some stories at the person who said, don't shout at her, don't touch her, is a education person, and on his resume he says, "I work for the Financial Times Institute," or whatever. He did, but just for a couple of days. I'm just wondering what this t-shirt says. It looks like William. My name is not William. Or is it sort of like old-fashioned Hilton? Don't know. I'm just going a little bit off topic with that. So in that respect, that's what's been happening on my channel. I am trying to break away from it and to find something else interesting what's happening in China. I really don't want to do the news about Gaza, Palestine, Israel, and how what Israel did to Gaza was awful. But some people seem to forget what Palestine or Hamas did to Israel. And that's what started it. I've said this countless times on my channel. I don't really understand why a Hamas is a organization. I tried to say terrorist. Should I say terrorist on this channel? I don't know. Yeah. They were before, and then they turned into the government. Whatever the story before, I don't really care. It's just what happened October 7th last year. And that's why you could say Israel fought back. But they should have known it wasn't going to be pretty. And a simple example of this is if Canada invaded America. As simple as that. Would America say, yes, okay, don't worry about it? But there's a lot of people on YouTube who would always do the Palestinian point of view. Now, what's happening in the Red Sea with Yemen attacking the merchant navy, the goods that we all need, every country needs them, is actually hurting themselves as well. I know I'm going off topic about teaching, but I'm seeing if there's any more messages that come on the chat, for example, but we only seem to have one. That's okay, it doesn't matter. It's a live show and you can all watch it later as well. Oh, so I think this is totally wrong. And I do believe in discussions with that. What happens with Taiwan? What happens with Hong Kong? China, China, China. Now, with that, Taiwan doesn't want, you could say, to be reunified with mainland China, because they've never been unified before. China is now the Communist Party of China and Taiwan is the Republic of China. There have been many people who actually who go to Taiwan and they interview people on the street. They are happy with the status quo. But there was one person, and again, I'm just going back through some of my channels. There was one person in Singapore that say, wouldn't it be better if there were two countries, two systems, and like one Commonwealth? But here's the question with a Commonwealth. Australia is the Commonwealth of England. England doesn't have any control over Australia, but they share the same king, King Charles, or before Queen Elizabeth. That's sort of a Commonwealth. So who would be sort of like the person with the crown on his head? These are all the things that we have been discussing quite recently. I know I have some friends in Australia, and they have been telling me what's happening in Texas. And I sort of I haven't really caught up with the latest, but the immigration problem has always been around the from the American and Mexican border, and it will continue until something is done. Why I sort of like Donald Trump in a way, he says, we're going to build a wall and you're going to pay for it. Now, I know the wall hasn't been finished. Has it improved? I really don't know. So if there's anyone in the comments, let me know your thoughts, your situation, and what's happening. I don't watch the news 24/7 on what's happening. I do go on Twitter quite often, and just to see related to research for what may be interesting. Now, my channel here on YouTube, it only has 32,300 subscribers. I've been doing this for 5 years, and again, it's just a hobby with that. If there is anyone around and you want to help this channel, then you can click the super chat. I think that's somewhere on your screen. And if you want to support my kitty cat, so any monetary donations go to help my two cats, Tokyo and Pickle, there. What else is happening in the news? Well, that's about it. And when you go and teach in Asia, just be really careful, because there's lots of scam artists, and basically you can do absolutely nothing. So another way that I was thinking about earlier, whether it's in China, whether it's in Bangkok, is to go and find out before you go where the expat community hang out. And for sure, in that bar or wherever, there would be an English teacher, and he can advise you because he's had the experience with this. Before in China, the red tape, as China, there's lots of red tape, but it was relatively easy compared to nowadays for doing a job there. If you're invited, then I think that the company should pay everything for you, because the company is going to make a lot of money out of you, and they're paying you pittance. And usually sometimes the percentage is like 50-50. It's not like an agent's fee in America, which it may be 15 or 20%. It's 50-50 in China, which is a large sum of money. And all they do basically every month is collect 50% of your salary. The school sometimes doesn't even know that. And you're even obliged in your contract to keep stum about it. So it's just being really careful. And again, the best advice I would say is go there. You can look at the website. There's loads of websites. You can type in Google teaching English in China, and you will find some agents. Fill out a form by all means, and then see what schools they offer you. And do make sure when you do go to China or to Thailand or wherever you want to teach, do bring your certificates. If you do get stopped by immigration, you can say you are looking for a job. And you can do that in a lot of countries with a tourist visa. You can look, but you can't apply. I think you can apply, but don't quote me on this. I'm not an immigration expert. They say if you want to retire in Thailand, you come over to Thailand on a tourist visa, a 2-month tourist visa, and go to an agent, and they will do everything for you. They will do all the red tape. In China, the school or the agent should do it for you. You may have to pay a agent fee But if you're working for someone, like I work for someone in China, then they did everything. And all I had to do basically pick up the visa, get to the airport and go. More recently, I haven't been into mainland China since 2013 when I had a couple of nights in Shanghai. Yeah, I've got some great friends in mainland China and also Hong Kong. With that, I just came on just a regular visa that I had to get from the Chinese embassy. Stamp, off you go, done. But it was a tourist visa. I had to show accommodation and I had to show my return air ticket from Shanghai. It wasn't a real big problem at the time. So if you do go to China, yeah, you can go on a tourist visa, but make sure you have a return ticket. Now, something a bit more expensive is that you would have to have an open-ended air ticket, because if anything happened, you can go on your own air ticket, period, done. Now, if you get into big trouble in China, this is what I suggest, a little trick. Take a plane to Guangzhou in the southeast or Shenzhen, then take the bus from there to Hong Kong, where you're in, you could say, maybe relative safety, and then you can get an international flight, etc., etc. Don't quote me on things like this. Before in China, for people who were working there, now my salary was in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was British at the time. If I wanted to leave China without paying 50% tax, it was a lot in those days, I couldn't fly. I would fly to Guangzhou. Shenzhen was a fishing village at the time, and I would take the bus or the coach from Guangzhou all the way to Hong Kong. I would obviously have to go through immigration, but immigration never asked you for the tax receipt. If I was flying from Wuhan direct to Hong Kong, they would ask you for the tax receipt, because you have the work permit and the resident permit. Then they would try to take it away. But the Shenzhen border was so relaxed compared to the other places. I don't know how it is now, but this was China for you at the time. This is not just for teaching. I would say this is for everything. Now, what about the age group? Maybe you're my age, you're 55 years old, maybe you're retired, maybe you want some excitement in your life, maybe you're divorced or you're not married, you're single, and you want to go and travel a bit before maybe you get, this sounds impolite, maybe when you can't travel anymore. So these are all the foods for thought. And do you want to go and live in Asia? Now, if you're in America and you live in Miami, or you live in Los Angeles, or I don't know, Oklahoma City, life is very, very different. And I would go on holiday, first of all, to explore. And if you like it, maybe you could just look up a couple of schools, and again, online, maybe go to the school or find a good agent, speak to some expatriates in Thailand or in China. But I would say it's a lot easier to do this in Thailand, and the Thai school will do a lot for you. The school in China may try to scam you, and the agent may try to scam you, but also you would be aware of scams in Thailand as well, which you could say is quite common. So finding people, it's the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But don't think of your work as a holiday. Don't think it. You are there to work, period. You will have some free time where you are allowed to travel. You may have some holiday time, so you can travel around the country, and then you can explore. And if you're like, you could say, got 2 or 3 years off, for example, I don't know how you can do that, but if you did have that, then you could work for 1 year, just like you would work in the United States of America. Then you could take maybe 1 year off to explore the area. My friend, I got a really good friend who lives in Thailand. So yeah, he lives in Thailand. I've known my buddy ever since I was 15 years old in high school. He started to go to Thailand in 1990, I think, and he loved it. And he sort of like, when he worked in England for 9 months, and then he quit a job, flew to Thailand for 6 months, stayed there on a beach or whatever, just enjoying the hospitality of the land of smiles. Now, to the land of smiles. He now, since I think 1997, 1998, around that time, he's lived full time. He started his own business. He's been quite successful. He's got a beautiful wife. I haven't seen him for years. If Andy, you're watching, hi, how are you? Thank you very much. I should catch up with you hopefully in the next 10 years. He's been very successful. I never really talked to him about visas before. Now, when I lived in Thailand, I was on a business visa because the hotels, that's what you needed. That was the minimum requirement to work. And you would get paid into a bank account. They would take the tax away from you, which wasn't a big deal. And the business visa would last for 3 months. Then you'd hop on an airplane and go to, I don't know, different places. I used to go to Penang in Malaysia. It was about an hour and a half flight away from Bangkok. And it was just, it was like a 2-day holiday. I used to stay in the Golden Sand Resort in Penang. It was a Shangri-La hotel, 5-star hotel, but really cheap at the time and just enjoying. But Malaysia is far more expensive than Thailand. I think if you have a beer there, if you have a big bottle of beer like Carlsberg or Heineken, it's going to be quite expensive compared to Thailand. But compared to Europe, it's still relatively cheap. It depends how you do your comparison. Me, I always compare things here in Cambodia, which is very cheap, but a great place to live, compared to Thailand, which is also a wonderful place, but things are just a lot more expensive, as I mentioned earlier. Let's have a look at this other message here. And what do we have? These days, they are not doing it anymore. They expect teachers to do 50% for some makeup reason now. I would actually agree with that, Mr. Asian Jay Walker. Things do change, and you just have to go with the flow. There's no point arguing the system. Just go with it, but do be aware of the system changes. You can go to different forums, different websites. Here, I live in Siem Reap, Cambodia. It's a really small town, maybe a population of 1.5 million or 1 million. There's no McDonald's. There's no public bus. There's no metro. Most people get around by motorbike. For a 125cc or less, you don't need a driving license. But you can go to like Facebook and you can join a community. You don't have to act with the community, but you can read about the community. Now, next year, I do need to get a passport, for example. And the last time I got my passport here in Cambodia, I did look at forums and saying how easy or how difficult it was. The thing is, the British Embassy or the British Passport Office here is run by an Indian company. I can't remember the actual name. And the UK Passport Office were really useful and even sent me a tracking number for my passport coming back from the UK to Cambodia. The Passport Office didn't even contact me, and you can't contact them, not even on email. But I knew my passport was back. So I took a plane to Phnom Penh, the capital, and I knew the opening times of when the passport was. And basically it was, I said, can I pick up my passport? And they said, yes. And I said, why didn't you inform me? And they said, we did. We sent you a text. I said, I didn't receive any text. But I'm a little bit worried about doing it for next year, and I hope it's a lot easier. Then on the form from the passport office, it didn't ask you for the address where you're living, but they asked for it when I was applying for the passport. So the UK office for the passport is actually really good, but the actual outpost of the passport office here in Cambodia, well, basically they were worse than awful. So what I'm trying to say here is, do join in some forums and just join on your Facebook account, on your Facebook is usually the main, and read what locals have to say. If someone is a teacher, for example, and has been teaching in that country for a long time, see if you can contact them or DM them or PM them through this message system and maybe he can give you some practical advice on what he did and how he has been able to survive and actually enjoy Thailand or China. So to summarize with this, to finish off with, is that if you do want to teach in Asia, maybe like a working holiday, first of all, you got to have the minimum requirement is a bachelor of any subject from university. It's really advisable to get a teaching English foreign language kind of certificate. Doesn't take long. As a native of English, it's actually really easy to do. Then you got the certificate. With that, you don't actually need the bachelor or the master's degree in any subject. But if you have two, it's even better. Again, you can apply online, many websites to do that, like China Marketing. I can't remember the websites, to be honest there. And you can apply and maybe they would give you a conditional offer. But personally, I would pack my bag, save up a little bit of money, enough for maybe 4 or 5 months. Make sure you have the right visas, make sure you know the legality of that country. So are you allowed to look for work on a tourist visa? Example, are you allowed to look for work in America on a tourist visa? And bring some of the documents along. Now, immigration may stop you, so make sure you're allowed to bring those papers along as well, because they may think you're going to go for work on a tourist visa. Then the Thai government or the agent, whatever, can transfer your visa from a tourist to a business or working visa, etc. You may have to do a small cost of it. But the thing is, what we should sum up with the whole of this 35-minute live feed with a maximum of 2 to 5 people watching it, hello everyone, is be aware of scams. And if it's your first time in Asia, people will know, and some unscrupulous people will take advantage of you. Try to find some locals. Excuse me. Try to find some local people who can help you, who are from England or America, been teaching in a while. Where do you find this? You just have to go and find out where the locals hang out. Be sociable. Don't get paralytically drunk when you're talking to them, and they can help you because they have the actual practical experience of now. I haven't been a teacher for years and years, but it's a really good backup. And sometimes I do consider coming out of retirement and helping them people learn English or understand or do business English or whatever it is. But it always seems to be more complicated than the old days. And maybe I'm just reminiscing of the old days. And I've had a great life in Asia. Do I want to return to the United Kingdom? Well, the answer to that is no, I don't. I did actually try. I think it was like 1999, 2000. So I was even working as a van driver in England to see whether I liked it. And to be honest, no. And I was so happy actually to get back on an aeroplane a little bit later on in the early 2000s, back to Asia. I went, I'm home. And I just feel really comfortable here. When I went to England last year, the driving is, far superior. The roads are a lot better. But I just felt sort of uncomfortable and I didn't feel really settled related to that. So let's leave it there for today. Thank you so much for your time, for the people who have stayed for near enough 40 minutes of me waffling on about absolutely nothing. And the simple thing is, just be aware, not everyone is sweet and innocent and everything is legal or illegal in some places around the world. You could say it's near enough the same. You are comfortable in your country because you've been there for a long time. You know people, you know the system. You are coming to Southeast Asia or to Asia or anywhere. It's a totally different system, and be aware of that and make sure you know exactly what's good, what's bad, what's legal and illegal. You don't want to be flown back to your country as a deportee. God bless to all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now. Cheers.